today we'll go over some of the lean concepts that I have gathered over the years of my experience and how that could be used to boost construction productivity. Um, Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I'll go over some of the topics here and then happy to answer any questions you might have towards the end. I'll start with a quick intro about my experience. I started my career as an electronics engineer and then I started working in manufacturing for the most part, but really ended up doing as part of R&D initiatives a lot of supply chain stuff, meaning how you interact with your vendors to like literally a new product launch and then delivering to customers. So that's where my love for supply chain started, and I did my master's in majoring in supply chain, and I kept working across different industries. So I worked in manufacturing, worked in retail, but then eventually moved to prefab manufacturing. So I've done a lot of work with oil and gas and industrial manufacturing, and then moved to prefab manufacturing, which is where my introduction to construction really started. And then eventually modular construction. I'm not sure if you've heard about modular construction, but it's a greener way. It's a new method of construction that moved from a project-based construction to a product-based construction initiative, and really something that I vouch for and advocate for. Given my background in sustainability and circular economy, we'll touch a little bit on circular construction also towards the end, but I'm planning to do a separate session again on just that topic so people get more value out of it. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much my introduction, and I've been doing this more for more than over 12 years now, and super super excited for every for all the opportunities that lies ahead for construction and especially modular construction. So let's start with really what the challenges are today. So one thing that I've seen is we cannot really continue to use traditional methods to manage our construction operations. And one thing that people really forget a lot of times is while profit margins are a factor, um, margins are factor of two components, right? So sales is one part of it, right? But costs is also a big part of it. And so what I see lagging in the industry is, yes, we need to grow our business, we need to focus on sales, but at the same time as we are growing, we also need to focus and understand, do we truly know our costs? Do we care about it? We should. And do we really know what our landed costs are? uh, um, is something that I'm seeing we haven't done, and mostly because we don't have the visibility. Like companies, big construction companies have significant productivity challenges and really no intelligence or insights into data and how to improve productivity, efficiency, and really scale properly. What I've seen, uh, the what I've seen is this industry has been challenged with being digitally immature, and it's not that there is lack of softwares thrown at them. It's pretty much lack of innovation and adoption, and actually good understanding to understand, like, to manage um, and keep up with all the challenges that I show on the screen right now. And the productivity issues are definitely negatively affecting the bottom line, the cash flow, and companies' ability to scale and deliver quality services and products. Um, Globally, I believe construction's labor productivity growth averaged about 1% a year over the past 2 decades, compared with 2.8% of total world economy and 3.6% of manufacturing. So that's a pretty lagging metric, as you can imagine. And this is all of this data is taken from McKinsey reports from last year. And as I mentioned here in the slide, time, cost, labor, supply chain inefficiencies, logistics. These are key challenges that I currently see in construction, but majorly in modular construction, definitely. I mean, labor shortages is dominating the industry. Everyone is aware of it, right? Uh, schedule delays because we don't have clear visibility. We are constantly resorting to manual methods to understand where the business is at. Supply chain, of term super favorite to my heart, is something that people really are not aware of. It's funny. Like I go to conferences and I speak, and I will not be surprised where I really could find a third of the room really not understanding what supply chain is. And just to make sure that the audience here also understands, like supply chain is not just logistics. Supply chain is not just about materials, procuring materials. So supply chain is the whole umbrella value chain that runs from the moment you start. The inception of a product to actually delivering it to the final customer. So these are the challenges that currently the construction industry is facing. Just to ground us with some numbers, this sector is one of the largest in the world. This is one of the largest sector in the world as far as economy goes, and with about $10 trillion spent on construction related services and goods every year. However, as I was saying, the industry's productivity has trailed that of other sectors in decades. There's like 1.6 trillion opportunity in productivity to close this gap. And um, one third, I think, this whole number would meet about 1.5 of world's annual infrastructure needs and boost like global GDP by up to some percent. One third of the opportunity is actually lying in United States, where productivity, like since 1940s, the productivity in manufacturing, in retail, in agriculture has grown by as much as 1500%, but the productivity in construction has barely increased at all, which is unfortunate. Because there hasn't, like as I said, like we haven't seen a lot of productivity and innovation happening in this industry, given the nature of the industry and the challenges we have seen over the years. And it constantly in the firefighting mode, we never really got ahead to actually fix things for the future generations. Supply chain is the backbone of any industries, I always say, but more so for this industry where scalability, repeatability in modular construction, by the way, circularity and cost efficiencies are um, some of the key moving parts here, right? And while you're trying to provide unique values through, all of these points, how do you also ensure that some of the lean concepts and Six Sigma techniques can be used to unblock some of the productivity in this industry and remain profitable? So I was talking about speed, quality, cost, like when we were talking about the challenges, like these are some of the keywords that I always want to focus on. Not just keywords, like it's also related to key metrics that one should always be monitoring to understand how profitable your business operations are. Um, what I've been seeing lately is, maturing of digital tools is definitely playing a key role. I mean, I'm sure you would agree in cost optimization. Lean construction principles can be used to improve your efficiency and also reduce costs. As I said, efficient supply chain management is critical to cost optimization, developing strong relationships with your suppliers, manufacturers, reducing your costs there, ensuring timely delivery of whatever you're delivering, and that needs strong partnership with your logistics partners, managing your inventory and your waste. And planning and scheduling are key to cost optimization through detailed schedule and timeline. Can identify potential issues and adjust their processes to avoid delays and cost overruns. So speed, quality, cost are key metrics that one should always be thinking when you're running your business operations. Like, is it even in any form or shape, are some of your metrics attached to overall these principles? And that gives you an idea of how red or green or where you are at in terms of managing your costs. So that leads to a good segue in understanding, like, do you really know your operations, or how well do you know your operations? Um, which means like, how often do you gather and analyze data for your day-to-day operations? And know your operations, I just say KO because that's just a term I came up with, shortening it. It's broken in three categories. Like, do you understand your demand? Do you understand your costs? And do you have customers telling you exactly how you perform for them, because that gives you an idea of what needs to change eventually and how do you consistently invest in continuous improvement, right? And help that really helps you maintain ning stable performance. And when you're making decisions, you are actually using data to drive those decisions versus tribal knowledge versus maybe of the world. So that's how, like, if you're doing some or any of these, maybe somewhat you are aware of your operations. And if you're not, then you probably need to invest into some of these, into some or at least all of these activities to understand where your operations are and why it's important to know the details. And this is just a quick slide that I put up so people can understand and gauge what your cues are. Why is it important? Like your rate of performance, the hours required, the resources required. These will tell you, like quick calculations will tell you how well you're performing, what's your volume looking like, what's your cycle time, what's your delivery times looking like. So just a quick snapshot, not getting into the details there. Um, One question I always ask my audience is, do you really understand what lean is? Do you use lean concepts today? It's good. Uh, I mean, I'm from this background. I've been advocating for lean for a long time now. But one thing that I see is the awareness about lean has gone up, which is great. I really am proud to see that. I still have people coming up to understand, hey, what is lean exactly? How can I use it? And there is and the appetite is growing for sure, but there's still a good uh, chunk of the sector that needs to be served and made aware of, and really go and roll up the sleeves and be doing lean as part of your day-to-day operations. There are some amazing lean leaders I have met over the years, and they show up every day for this community, for this sector. And I highly recommend following them on LinkedIn, definitely. So one thing that I want to set expectations for is before we get into understanding what lean is, let's try and understand what lean is not. It's not about working harder. We are not telling you to outsource or offshore your operations. It's not just about cost cutting programs. It's not just 5S or Kaizen or the buzzwords that you hear. It's not just about automating and buying bunch of tools. It's absolutely not that. And it's also not about copying a company that promotes being lean, right? There's more to lean. There's more um, to this word, to this world of lean. So I wanted to ground because these are some of the things that I've heard from people over the years. So I made sure that I ground my audience on this. So let us delve into what is lean. And this isn't something super new. If you go online, you Google, you'll find principles of lean very easily, and you can actually go ahead and dive into the details of those too. This is how I define and the four buckets of what lean is, and how do you go about organizing it for your industry. But first, something that's more important that I really want to share is, the demographics and the labor shifts of this industry have significantly reduced the labor availability of this for construction, and that eventually relatively increased the costs of the built environment, and that is lagging us behind supporting the needs, managing the supply demand of this industry. Um, and that's why promote the concept of lean a lot. Now, lean construction is, I would say, a respect and relationship oriented production management based approach to managing your projects. It's not just, it's a thinking that encourages a constant reflection to determine if every expenditure of resource is employed to generate value, right? The customer should determine and make transparent that the value definition via the project conditions of satisfaction to help guide project team's efforts. So generating value um, is super important, right? But then also making sure that the that we have mutual respect while we are conducting these lean activities, because people are a core to the lean principle. You know, waste is effort or resource utilization that doesn't create value, and we'll talk about waste a lot. So waste is not always something tangible that you see, right? It can be effort, it can be time, and anything that you are and what lean suggests is standardizing processes and leveling the flow are the best ways to optimize any value stream you are trying to target. So getting into the principles, we start with defining value, right? So just to better understand this first topic, it is important to understand what your value prop is, right? Value is what the customer is willing to pay you for, right? So it's super imperative that you understand the actual and the latent needs of your customer. Sometimes even customers would not know what they want, and they're not able to articulate it for you, right? This is very common uh, um, for any industry. It's not just your customer. So it's important that you qualitatively, quantitatively define what your value prop is, what your customers want, and how you both are merging and your products and services, like where do you actually merge in terms of fulfilling the gap. And that could be what kind of products they want, what is the price they want. And when I say product here, we are talking about, say, a home that you're building, right? A home site, or an ADU, or a commercial building that you're trying to put up. What exactly are the needs? And so identifying value is important. Right. And then we get into eliminating waste. I just said waste is not just tangible waste that we talk about. It's also about the effort and time and repeated operations that you see that can easily be automated, right? And saved some time for. So this can happen when you really understand what your value stream is. Do you know in depth what a value, and we'll go over what a value stream is. The goal here is to use customers' value as a reference point and identify all the activities that contribute to these values, right? And activities that do not add value to your end customer are considered waste. And this waste can be, as I said, like, value added and non-value added. We'll talk about that also eventually. Um, so anything that's value add is definitely something the customer is willing to pay for. I think that non-value add is something that you need to reduce, eliminate unnecessary processes or steps that you can ensure customer is getting exactly what they want, right? While also optimizing your costs. And then we need to understand, how, now that we understand our value stream and we know where our wastes are, we standardize our work, right? Once you have removed these wastes and you are ensuring that the added activities are flowing smoothly. um, and how do you do that? Actually, you can break down your steps, break down your operations into steps, reconfigure, level it out, level the workload, understand the flow, create cross-functional departments who can own all of these. Training and upskilling your employees are key factors here, right? And once you have done all of that, you standardize what you got, and then you continue working on it, right? No, then continuous improvement is pretty much like, it's not that you identified waste and then you try to fix everything all at that time. It's not humanly possible. So you take incremental steps, you make changes, you standardize it, and then you move on to the next. You can totally come back to this, and probably with the pace that the industry is changing and the tech is evolving, you will always find ways to improve the current state. There's always room to improve. So you can always come back to the same process, improve it again, standardize it, move on to next. So that's the principle of lean. You identify the value, and where do you intersect with your customer needs. You eliminate the wastes, you standardize your work, and then you continuously improve. You continue building this culture and continuously innovate. This isn't something that you do, a project that you do and you get done. It's a culture change, it's a thinking, it's a shift on how you run your operations. Today I was going to go into some of the lean tools practices. It isn't possible that I'll be able to cover everything, but I'll go over some of these. 5S is the foundational element of lean. It's all about sorting, standardizing, shining, and making sure that your workplaces are clean. And I say this is the foundational concept of lean because um, people do not take this seriously sometimes, but people also don't understand that the value of having a clean, tidied, and immaculate workplaces, very well tagged, can actually reduce a lot of chaos in your operations. Having the tools at the right place can actually reduce the number of steps people take in finding it. Having a clean workplace can actually improve the safety of your operations. Having a standardized workplace can actually help in onboarding your employees, new employees faster because they really know where to go to find stuff. So 5S is a foundational aspect of lean, and I any lean implementation should start with this. This is something that's super easy to communicate to your employees, to get them onboarded, to understand the value of this, and then you build on the more complex concepts. We'll go over value stream mapping, PD, say plan, do, check, act, Kaizen, visual management, going to Gemba, and Pokayoki. We'll go over some of these concepts, and happy to discuss more if you're interested, and others too. Um, so let's talk about Kaizen. Kaizen is made from two words, Kai, which is it's a Japanese word. Kai means change, and Zen means for the better. And it's on this is an event that's done for any or in any organization to improve your process and make it more repeatable and consistent. Now, people often ask me like, when do you do a Kaizen? And one thing that when s- when you're seeking areas for improvement, it's important to focus on process rather than people. um, it's a very important because people are not the problem, processes are. Um, and so discussion of these gaps should be a team effort. Every team member should be feeling comfortable to provide feedback in an open forum. And it's also a very important job of the management to not get defensive when process criticisms are levied, right? Add these discussions as part of a regular workflow. Plan, schedule process improvements meetings where team members don't feel like discussions only take place when, your leadership is not happy with the team's performance. Because a lot of times Kaizens are seen as oh, maybe my area isn't working as expected, and so leadership is focusing on my station, which is should not really be the case. And then because and then the discussions are not open and transparent, people are not involved, they are actually then trying to defend, and they will not give you the real picture, right? So the more normalized Kaizen discussions are, the more comfortable your team will be voicing in the concerns they have, because remember, they are the people who are feeling the pain. They are the people who will give you these ideas, and no one else like is as close to the process as they are to give you the best ideas to improve your processes. Again, as I said, no process is perfect, and identifying problems in a workflow should be seen as a positive change rather than negative. And team members at every level, if you have a hierarchical structure or a matrix structure, at every single level should be encouraged to voice their thoughts and provide suggestions of how processes can be improved. Building that environment starts at the leadership level. It's a top down thing. And it's important that the members, team members, and leadership trust each other, right? That's why I keep saying that lean is a culture shift. It will come with practice. It's not a one and done activity. People, you need to make sure that your team is involved and they get it. Why why this shift, why the company is forging this path, why is it important, and what it means for them. So it's super important to communicate that before you actually embark on this journey of lean. So it's just touching on the PDCA cycle a little bit in the previous slide. So plan, do, check, tag. This is like the simplest tool that I have seen that any team, like any station in your, if you're from manufacturing, your station could use it. If you're in construction, you have different teams, they could use it, right? It's pretty much optimizing the timeline from bid to cash, right? So this is equally applicable to your office teams that's sitting and managing the supply chain side of things, plus your team who's actually working on site. And it's all about, as a quick uh, um, visual that I have here for you is, you start with defining the problem, you map the value stream, you plan, meaning you have smart targets, you plan for some targets, you actually do implement it, right? You check, keep checking your TTIs, your targets to improve, you act on it, right? Deploy, expand, standardize, train, standardize, and keep going, right? And this could be done for something very simple, right? As part of your daily activity. This could be done something for complex activities as well, and especially works great when you are involved in your supply chain cycle. So I talk about this a lot, and it's the most effective lean models that I have seen to drive um, operational excellence, right? For example, I was thinking, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with A3 experiments, otherwise, that really talk about overall what the problem is. But in a standardized system, PDCA cycle can take over, and it can give you long-term changes because once a PDCA cycle ends, another begins, right? So the future state of one process becomes the current state of the next. So that's the charm of this. So the mindset of continuous improvement is um, embedded with this whole concept. And the end goal is to create a design or probably a construction process that is more efficient, delivering better outcomes to the stakeholders and eliminating waste along the way. Right. So the plan side, it's pretty much talks about decide to make a change and dictate how the change will be implemented. You plan that and measured. You do it, you implement whatever change you want to. Like, for example, in a drywall operations, you probably want to change the material, right? And so you plan for it, you implement that change. So you go out, you take actions, you find suppliers, you do it, you check because now you also want to check what was the impact. Maybe carbon footprint was an impact that you wanted to implement by changing the whole drywall process, right? Or totally change the drywall process with something altogether new. And so you use those predetermined measurements to analyze how successful you were, right? Or if you were not, so you understand really what was the benefit or loss here. And if it worked, awesome, make the change a permanent part of your future state. And if it did not work, then aim to determine what went wrong and what could your team do next time instead, right? And then start the cycle again. So that's pretty much what the PDCA cycle stands for. And something super simple, a visual that you can use to um, uh, share with your teams to make sure they understand the value of this and continue in this mindset. Value stream mapping, you heard me saying this word a lot in the past few minutes. I give a quick picture here, not the cleanest picture, but value stream mapping is pretty much understanding your operations end to end, understanding the material flow, understanding the information flow, right? Right from the supplier, right, to your customers, they're interlinked, right? What are the processes? How are the logistics being managed? How is the information being flowing between different teams? And so having a value stream mapping of your operations is critical to understand where your wastes are. If you do not understand your um, a real picture of how your operations run, you probably are missing a big chunk of opportunities in managing your costs. It's very important It's a big picture tool. It's a detailed tool also. It shows you all the related processes. It's an overall view of all your system flows. And it involves your customers' pain points as well, right? I always say that value stream mapping often becomes a very high level exercise, and it should not be. So when you start mapping your processes, your current state, you should make sure all the parties involved are part of drawing that process. Because, like, for example, um, maybe a procurement manager who is not really calling suppliers and probably interacting with them day to day basis can give you an overall flow of how the materials are coming, right? But you actually, if you involve the buyer, you would find out that, hey, I have no mechanisms to know when my material is arriving. I have no mechanism to know if they are late unless I call them up. I have no view. So the detailed view, or maybe they will tell you that how many times they go back and forth with the supplier and also the management to get approval of all the purchase orders, and how are the purchase order sent between suppliers and yourself, and how is it then communicated to the receiving department and stuff like that, right? So you would not get the detailed intricate, sorry, whatever that word is, um details if you do not involve the doer. So it's very important to have the doer in the room when you're doing this, because you want to capture every single back and forth manual repetitive process that goes on in the value stream mapping. So you prepare to have a cross-functional team, as I mentioned, do your mapping current state, map your future state, because now you identified your bursts. When I say bursts, those are your wastes. And then plan how are you going to transition to this new future state, right? Standardize and celebrate. Celebrating your small wins is a big part of lean, and we should not shy away from doing that. With every small incremental change implemented, make sure that you take the time to provide accolades to the team. And it doesn't always have to be monetary, it could also be a pat on the back, it would also be a recognition, right? That keeps the team motivated, that keeps the team drawn towards this change. So, hence, I highly recommend that celebration is a big part of lean. Um, and as I said, like, current state has to be very, very detailed. Future state is pretty much what you're targeting after you remove the waste, right? Again, value add and non-value add activities are um, identification will be key here, because something that's non-value add needs to be eliminated sooner, right? um, and a step that cannot be removed as it is necessary for producing value activities, because there could be some business non-value activities, but so those need to be identified and understood and got bought in from leadership to see if you can, like, what can be done to improve it, even if you cannot totally eliminate it, right? um, Wastes can be, when I say wastes can be of different sort, and we'll talk about waste in my next few slides also. One so, um, these are all Japanese terms, mura, and muri, and you can define your waste in these three categories and understand what do they mean, right? So, let's start with, like, Mura. Mura is pretty much about wastefulness, like, wasting in terms of wasting your resources, or like, it's a Japanese word actually that means having no material work activity that does not contribute positively to the completion of any work that you're trying to. Now, Mura can be, as I said, seven types. I keep talking about this acronym, where there are eight types of wastes, which could be in form of transportation, it could be form of inventory, it could be form of motion, because your employee is walking back and forth. It can be overproductivity, over um, over processing. It is also the defects, the quality defects that is causing rework. So all these kind of waste is categorized under the word Muda, and you need to be aware of all these ways that I just talked about. So you can actually use the word acronym like downtime to understand what these so D stands for defects, over processing, inventory, transportation, motion, and one key part is actually wasted human effort. Also, that's been recently added as part of one of the eight wastes. Is not utilizing your uh, team members' potential to the max is also a wasted effort. So make sure that we capture that also. Um, Mura is unevenness or irregularity of waste due to resource utilization. We talked about it a little bit, like variation in time or resources that needs to be captured and improved. Will work on the Mura category. And Muri is actually unreasonable overburdening. So either we are overloading people or equipment, right? And because of that, bottlenecks could occur. Because of that, your yield goes down. So then Muri stands for identifying those waste and then improving that. So some of the categories that you can put your waste on and see, focus on while you are doing your value stream mapping and identify the waste there. Value add, non-value add, I think we spoke about this a lot overall during my presentation. And as I said, any process step or activities that changes a raw material uh, to a finished product or in any information to a service that your customer is willing to pay for is value add. Non value add are non essential steps and activities that can increase your process time and add cost that really adding value. And most important, customers don't pay for it, right? So that's the most important part of understanding here. Um, now, um, this matrix actually tells you what is necessary and what kind of actions you could take. So anything that is necessary and value add, absolutely. You're continuously improving that process. Use Kaizens, use just do it events, improve it. Anything that's necessary, but it's a non-value add, see if you can possibly remove it, do a Kaizen. If not, it's okay. Continuously improve it, right? Anything that's unnecessary and non-value add, eliminate immediately. Anything that is unnecessary, I mean, there's nothing that will lie in this category, because if it's a value add, it's important, it's necessary, you need to do something about it, you need to improve it. So that's how you can approach on kind of actions you can take, and how do you approach value add and non-value add activities. I give a small a pyramid of actions because I'm talking about so many events. But if you have a simple problem that you probably know a solution for, have a daily improvement initiative, right? Have your team be talking about it. Have KPI boards. Go to Gemba. Use your five whys, and that will help you improve simple problems and eliminate it. If a problem could take a more than half a day or 3 days, you will have to involve basic problem solving tools, right? And continuously work on it. Anything that is 4 or 5 days, you absolutely need a problem solving Kaizen event. You need the cross functional team locked in a room, away from day to day jobs, because someone has to be taking care of it, and focus on this problem because you probably do not have a solution. Involving a cross functional team will actually help you get to a solution. So it's an event. And anything that's complex, that's an advanced problem solving event, that's really a bigger strategic organization wide problem, and you need to probably involve senior leadership in these kind of problem solving event, because that might be impacting overall your company's productivity. So those are something that will take longer, will have more pre-work to it, and will involve a lot more leadership party than just the doers. I just did a quick mapping. You could use it eventually, but common issue that I see, like if you have throughput issues, do a standard work Kaizen. It will help you improve your throughput. If you have an equipment downtime issue, do a preventative maintenance program, implement it. If you have, say, quality issues, Six Sigma variation reduction is your key. You absolutely can use it. If you have issues with, your raw material availability, and you have demand. So implement your demand forecasting and planning tools. Invest in those tools so it can help you improve your overall supply chain bottleneck. Let's go to the next slide. So I wanted to touch upon Six Sigma a little bit. I also understand that it isn't a very it's a very important concept, and I highly recommend getting certified. I'm a certified Six Sigma leader, so definitely highly recommend, because that gives you a hands-on experience of how to Six Sigma on a process and how to really improve variation. Uh, this whole cycle of DMAC is something that I often use. It's a defined phase. It actually helps you. That's a first step. You have to import. You need to discuss the importance of defining the problem. What's your project goal clearly in construction, and you have to mention the need to understand the client requirements, budget, and timelines. Very similar to what we discussed in defining the value, right? So defining the problem is the first step, right? And then we go to the measure side, where you discuss the measure phase and you about its significance in construction, meaning the need for data collection, for measurement to understand the current state of the project, right? What's your key KPIs? Why are they relevant to your project? Like project duration, cost, quality, design, of course, all of that. The next phase is analyze, right? And analyze actually, you have to discuss the techniques like root cause analysis and identify issues that are affecting your process. And you need to provide examples like what are like how are you going to go what's the root cause, what are the techniques you're using, and understand like really what is that cause that we need to go ahead and tackle right now. And the improve phase, you discuss the strategies for making improvements like process optimization or design changes or resource allocation. How are you level loading employees? So you know you could also provide examples for successful improvements in the past if you have any. And then you try to control, right? And it is important in sustaining the improvements that you have implemented. Like you need to mention the need of implementing control measures, right? Continuous monitoring and benefits of long term stability in our projects. So, I can give you an example. For example, if you're facing, frequent delays in completing projects, that is leading to cost overruns and client, of course, your customer dissatisfaction, right? So now you want to understand what are the cause of delays, right? You want to establish clear project timelines. So in the data collection measure phase, you have to gather historical data on project delays, like what are the reasons for delays and why it's impacting your duration. Use your KPIs like project duration, budget overrun, and any kind of customer complaints you are seeing, right? And then you do your root cause analysis. It could be weather conditions, it could be material shortages, it could be poor scheduling activities, it could be people not showing up, or attrition, anything, right? You analyze your historical data, you determine the most critical factors that causing the project delays, and then you develop an action plan for it, right? Uh, um, Maybe better weather monitoring or improving your procurement practices, putting a tool that will help you a live understanding of where your materials at, and optimizing your project scheduling based on the capacity and the people and the skill matrix of the people that you have in your plant. I mean, these things are important, and then you improve it, control it, and then continue establishing a feedback loop for project teams to report any issues and delays in real time. And that's how you continuously keep up with it, right? Um, After you have implemented uh, this DMAC, you need to make sure that somewhere you have all of this documented, visually laid out, so new people joining your team can understand what has been done in the past, what can be done in the future, right? It has a substantial impact on your project success and profitability. And you also want to make sure that your doers understand why and how this was done. So that's a little quick understanding of Six Sigma DMAC thinking. Change management. So In the beginning, if you remember, I said that people are a big part of lean, right? And so while you're doing all of this, it can cause a lot of churn with the people. It's not something that you can just throw at your employees and expect them to deliver, right? As I always said, the fault is always the process, not the people. How do you embrace this change? You have to find the ambassadors from your cross functional teams, like those. There are like some of the employees who are the change agents, you'll always find those change agents in different teams. Find them, pick them, make them your ambassadors. They will actually help you in the adoption of this concept. Recognize that this is the hardest part. Change management is the hardest part. Respect your employees through this, right? Invest in upskilling. I think that's the most important thing lagging in construction. We're not investing in upskilling your employees, especially to attract the newer generation to our industry. We need to make sure that they feel that they are staying relevant with the technology changes while contributing to construction. So people are an important asset. People make up your company. So establish trust, manage the change, make sure leadership is patient, and allow people the time and energy to learn and grow while embracing this change. In lean, um, I wanted to touch upon circular economy. I would say circular construction a little bit. Um, Not everyone is familiar about circular economy, but I something that's super close to what I have been doing for some time now. I see a very strong connection between circular economy and lean, and exactly why I always take time to show this slide. While lean focuses on minimizing waste, circular economy attempts to monetize it. So the idea of circular economy is to pretty much make wastes in your process secondary value streams for your overall project. So uh, uh, in a perfect economy, there will actually be two sources of value streams. The first value streams are the customers that you serve. The second is any waste that comes out of your process actually finds another customer segment, and you are able to monetize on it. So that's pretty much the idea of circular economy. Now, how do you move from your linear state to actually the circular e- economy state? So I volunteer for this organization. Circular supply chain is where we came up with this transition model, where we started talking about how you can actually shift from your linear state to a circular state. And we talk about these phases that you see here on the screen. So the first step is actually identify any improve process improvement effort to define the materials and resources that are involved in the process, right? A value stream mapping is the great exercise that actually gives you visibility of the value. For example, when you're dealing with the flooring composed of hot rolled steel sections welded together, this fade will actually include meticulously tracking the quantity of raw materials used, right, as well as the cuts made in the steel. So this analysis can actually provide you valuable insights into the material and how efficient they are. So this stage is talking about that. um it also takes a closer look at the waste management practices. I mean, it should be obvious that waste generation can be effectively minimized and contained in an offsite factory setting. There are other opportunities to reduce waste also, like during installation or storage or on-site segregation, transfer, final storage of raw materials, as well as finished goods. And these are very relevant to the modular construction, by the way. The next phase is intensify. This phase is about using materials in a way that that extracts their highest value. So let's say, take this example of a shipping pallet, right, that used probably just 1 week per month. The utilization rate of this is probably 25%, right? The aim is should be to increase the utilization rate as much as possible. So how would you do that? um, Share your pallet between different parts of the company, right, and different members of the supply chain. Another example could be galvanized steel ceiling and roof components that arrive at a factory on purpose-built racks. These racks can be returned to the suppliers for reuse, right? So now you're intensifying. And then you look at the narrow phase. This is all about reducing the number of resources needed in a manufacturing plant. These resources could be including water, gas, building materials, other consumables. Now, this phase thinking can also be used in the design of finished products. One system that has fully embraced is actually Passive House. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. It's a low energy design standard that ensures year round comfort with minimal active heating or cooling, and relies uh, on passive materials contributions from, say, like solar radiation and internal heat generation. The fourth one is predict. How do you actually accurately forecast the availability of materials and resources from the supply chain network? So while you already use forecasting, I don't know if most construction companies use it because they actually buy a lot of materials upfront. But if you are, BIM modeling, so building information modeling technology is a great tool to actually understand your material needs. You can develop 3D models that will help you compute and graphically present the waste generation on a dashboard, right? And the use of BIM can actually minimize waste resulting from improper design. So, using powerful BIM models can help you yeah, do that. And the product phase also includes coming to an understanding of how others can use your waste, right? As I said, we want to look for and serve companies who are interested in purchasing that waste as a valuable resource. So not only does that reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill, it also opens up a new revenue stream for you, right? Because now you're able to sell your waste to the customer. And then you're still slowing down. So this phase is about finding ways to extend the lifespan of your products that go into a building. So modular building designs that combine parts with similar expected lifespan is a great example, right, of how you can achieve longevity with your product. It absolutely avoids the need to demolish a building when it has been worn out, which causes attribute to the maximum waste in any industry in construction. Another steps that can be taken is actually refurbishing your existing buildings rather than building new ones. Materials like wood, steel, brick, carpet, they offer great potential for reuse and refurbishment. Work on it. Close phase is looking for ways to use secondary regenerative materials and resources. It's about matching your material uses to needs and introducing substitute materials when needed. So this phase includes like identification of scrap, development of marketplace for such materials. I have some good examples. I mean, Yorkon is an or European company, and it reuses, recycles 65% of its generated waste. So, great example. I've written a pretty massive article on this, so will be worth reading. Happy to drop that in the chat. Capture. This involves sourcing and transforming available and affordable secondary materials for supply chain operations. Um, for instance, the use of cross-laminated timber to replace materials with higher environmental impacts. The focus on this phase should be on enhancing the performance of alternative materials, making it practical to use them, right? We also want to make sure that we are running a business and making sure that when we are introducing these secondary materials, we are making sure that it is profitable to use it and practical to use it while having a great environmental impact. But yeah, I mean, this was the last section uh, of my presentation. I know we just have 5 minutes.